probably do. He said, but I don't have time to minister a whole series on the Ten Commandments. So, and I said, okay. I just was wondering to see what you had on your heart. But it's a series we're going to start on the Ten Commandments. I heard said before that if your senior leader at church speaks to you in a dream, a lot of times that means it's like God speaking to you through them. So I felt the Lord was giving us direction on a series that we should talk about. And I think it's cool because some of the stuff that as a leadership team we've been wanting to talk about feels like it'll really flow really well while we talk about the Ten Commandments. So, you want to put the slides up? So the Ten Commandments is found in Exodus chapter 19 and 20. And I got 19 minutes, so I'm going to talk most of it through and not read the scriptures. But in Exodus chapter 19, there's a powerful move of God that's happening. God delivers the people out of Egypt. They're in the wilderness. They go to Mount Sinai to worship God. At Mount Sinai, Moses is praying, and God says, and talking to God and Moses are talking. He said, Moses, I'm going to come down to you guys, and I'm going to speak. And he said, when I speak, everybody forever will believe that I talk to you. And how many of you guys know the story of Moses? Everybody knows the story of Moses. Like, it's very rare to find somebody that doesn't know that story. And so what happens in this story specifically is they go to Mount Sinai, and God says, tell the people they need to wash themselves, they need to prepare themselves because I'm coming. And he says, put a boundary around it. And he said, if anybody comes to this mount, he said, stone them or shoot them with an arrow, kill them, whatever you got to do, because I don't want to break forth on the people. And what happens when God finally comes and he starts talking, there's a 3-day period of time. God comes down and there's this smoke and a cloud that just of smoke that covers the mountain of Mount Sinai. And then a loud trumpet blasts. And then they begin to hear God speak the Ten Commandments. Like, this isn't just here, the stones, you have the stones. That's part of what happened. But God actually spoke them out and they heard them. And the people say, the people of Israel respond, don't let God talk to us anymore, because if he talks to us, we will die. That was the response to hearing the voice of God. It pierced them inside. I'm sure if any of them had ever committed any of those sins, it was like, how could I ever let God talk to me? I've already lied. I've already done half of the things on the list. Right? So they're pierced through. I mean, think about, like, you go and you actually see this cloud cover a mountain. And there's lightning and fire and smoke. And then you hear the voice of God. Like, what would you do? Like, the Bible said that he told them not to come close to the mountain because he didn't want to break forth on them. And it actually says that when he came down and he started speaking, they all backed off. Because they were so pierced by this, we just felt the presence and it's nice. Right? But there's another side of the presence that feels completely different. It just depends on what side of the voice you're on. Is he speaking for you or is he speaking to you? You know what I mean? And so the first four commandments that God gives, it's broken up in 4 and 6. The first 4 has to do with us and God. It has to do with our vertical relationship, how we live vertically between us and God. So when you read them, it says, you shall have no other gods before me. Everybody say, you shall have no other gods before me. The next one, you shall not make yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven, above or on earth beneath, or in the waters below. And this is the important part right here. He says, you shall not bow down to them or worship them. And he goes on, but I really like this part. He says, for I, the Lord, am a jealous God. The next one says, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord. Your God. For the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. And then the fourth one, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. And I know they're not really exciting, right? You read them and you're like, okay, I think I'm good. But so in the Old Testament, these were just laws. They were just spoken. They heard them. They were afraid when they heard them. But Jesus came in the New Testament, and Jesus speaks on the law. And when Jesus speaks on the law, he doesn't just talk about the law as being thou shalt not, and you have to do this. He talks about the actual heart and the spirit behind the law. So the first four that we went through has to do with our vertical relationship with God. And the heart of that law is, as Jesus explained it, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and all your strength. That is the heart of the law. The heart of the law is not, like if we want to be, so part of what he was doing at that time, and when he delivered the people out of Egypt, he said, you are going to be a special people to me among all the people of the world. And he said, the number one thing that's going to separate you from all the people of the world is you belong to me. And not only do you belong to me, I belong to you. He says, I am God, and I am coming into relationship with you now. And for us to be in relationship, you can have no other gods. You can't do anything for any other God. There can be no worship of any wood, stone, gold, nothing. Nothing in heaven, nothing in earth, nothing under the earth, nothing in the water, nothing anywhere, nowhere. There can be no other God you have before me. He said, I'm jealous. And he said, I'm not just that, he said, I'm jealous of you. I will have you and no one else will have you. You are my people. And he says, and I am your God. When you go to battle and you're going to go war against somebody else, I won't be on their side. I will be on your side. And if they come to war against you, they won't come to war against you. Only they come to war against me because you are mine. If you're an older sibling, you kind of know that feeling. Don't talk about my little brother. Talk about my sibling. I can make fun of him, but you can't make fun of him. That's the way God is, but with much more tenacity. You are mine, and you belong to me. Amen. And he said, and I demand one day for dating me. Oh. The Sabbath day is holy. It's between me and you. I don't want you to go and work for money. I don't want you to go serve out in the world. I want one day of yours to be holy and special between me and you. We're going to spend the day together.
That's good. That's really good.
You will love me. And then, like Jesus said, the whole law is summed up in that you will love the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your mind, and all of your soul, and all of your strength. And love your neighbor as yourself. When we read the Ten Commandments, when we read them just as laws, we don't see the God who's speaking to us. Right? They didn't see it. They couldn't hear. They couldn't see God. They saw judgment. They were afraid. They didn't know what to do. But when Jesus came, it's a different face behind the words saying it now. They're not afraid anymore. Or we don't have to be afraid. Because Jesus is full of love and compassion. Amen?
Amen.
He's explaining to them, this law is not to be harsh. You have to serve under my hand. And you have to give up everything. And your life's going to be horrible. Because everybody outside in the world is going to have a bunch of fun. And you are going to be over here just, you're going to have to fast. So you're going to have to pray. And you're going to have to read your Bible. And you're going to have to, worship me. And you can't worship anybody else. You can only worship me. Right? But that was what the Israelites, they only heard that. And they said, I don't know if we can even come close to this God you speak of. They saw a fire, smoke, pillar, and were afraid. But because Jesus, we can see, he was just coming on the scene. He wasn't trying to be afraid or trying to strike fear into anybody. He said, I want you to be my people. I want to make you a priest and a prophet. I want to speak to you through you. I want to use you. You are my people. I want to show the world who I am through you. So the first 4 commandments are vertical, and then the next 6 are horizontal. And we're not going to spend as much time talking about horizontal until later on. But so honor your father and mother. Honor your father and mother, so that you will live long in the land the Lord your God has given you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, wife, or his male or female servant, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. So you read these, right, and you're like, man, you can't, like, seriously? When I read these, I think, like, dang it, I can't murder? It's the worst. I gotta honor my mom and my dad, both of them? Come on, like, God, this is horrible. The next one, you shall not commit adultery. Like, if you're married, if you ever get married, I hope you wish that your spouse doesn't cheat on you. Right? Yeah. Like, that's horrible. Why would anybody want that? Don't steal. Right? I mean, you might want to take something to somebody else's, but you definitely don't want anybody taking something from you, right?
Right. Yes.
You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. Have you guys ever been lied about?
Yeah.
That's not fun. That brings up all kinds of stuff. Right? The next one. You shall not covet your neighbor's house or his wife. Like, this is my wife. You know what I'm saying? This is my wife. I don't need nobody coveting my wife. Or my house. Get a house. Your own. Like, I mean, you think about the laws that God wrote, and they're not harsh. He's trying to tell them how to live together.
Yeah.
Like, this should be common sense. God should not have had to speak from heaven to tell them not to murder. Like, this is... There's like one law that's like, don't give your babies up for worship to Moloch. Don't like sacrifice your children. Like, what? What's going on? Why are they killing their children? What is going on? Like, when you hear the law of God, depending on who you see saying it, right? Because depending on who's talking, anything can sound evil, right? You look down, there's a TikTok, look down, as you could make everything look evil. You get a mean face, and you start talking, and you're like, don't use the sporks. Use the spoons. You're like, that was creepy. Why did you say it that way? You know what I mean? Like,
What if I want to use the forks?
If you're eating cereal, you don't want to use it.
I mean, I can't.
I know it's a weird example, right? But the thing is, you can make anything sound creepy. They just didn't hear the heart behind who God was and what he was trying to tell them. See, like, living together as family, We have to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
We need God. Like he said, you're going to be my covenant people. And if you're my covenant people, I don't want you to look like the world looks like. I want you to know how to live together, how to honor each other, how to honor your parents. Like in my life, my kids like me for the most part. They respect me. Right? But man, I talk to some people and they're like, man, it's like the worst thing. And when they talk to me about my kids, they're like, man, I wish my kids would be like that. Like they want to be able to have family that way. And when you don't experience it, it's tough. I'm not speaking bad about anybody. I've been fortunate that I've been walking with the Lord for a time, and He's helped me parent. Like I don't think I'm the best parent. I think He's helped me be a good parent. Where I make mistakes, I pray God fill in those holes that I have. You know what I mean? Like He's like, I want you honor your father and mother, and not only if you honor your father and mother will that be good for you, but I'm going to make sure you live long. These laws that God has given us, He's given us to teach us how to live life. And if we learn, and Jesus started teaching us the law behind, or the heart behind the law. He said, this law says you shall not murder. But Jesus said, if you just say you hate your brother, you've already committed murder in your heart.
Wow.
Like Jesus took it a whole step further. He didn't take away the law. He added to the law. He said, this thou shalt not murder, you should meditate. I don't even want to allow murder in my heart. I want to be so far away from murder because this will separate me from the God who says I belong to Him and He belongs to me. If there's even murder, a hint of murder in my thoughts and in my heart, God, cleanse this out of me. Get it out of me. You know what I'm saying? If adultery or thinking about all the stuff we have in our world today. They want to, TV shows, everything, commercials. They want to put naked women and naked men as much as they can in front of our eyes. They're just drawing us into a place where we would commit adultery in our heart and in our mind. That we would commit fornication in our heart and in our mind. And God is saying, no, don't even let a little hint of that in your heart. Jesus said, if you just lust with your eyes, you've already committed adultery in your heart. Jesus said, don't even allow it to get into your heart. Don't allow it to touch how you feel about the people next to you. Because you are a special people of mine. And if I belong to you and you belong to me, I'm going to help you walk this out. You won't even want to steal from somebody that's next to you. You won't even want to take. You want to see the person next to you blessed. You want to see the marriage of the people that you know that are struggling. You want to see them. You want to pray for them. That God would strengthen their marriages. Right? You see a family that's broken. No, God, I pray, heal this broken family. They need you, God. Like you've been to me, so be to them. God is just trying to teach us. There's a verse in the New Testament, Paul says, in Romans, he says, I didn't even know coveting was a sin, except your law told me it was a sin. Coveting in your heart means that you want what somebody else has. You desire what somebody else has. And he says, don't let coveting come into your heart for anything that belongs to somebody else. You want to go to the next slide, bro? And the next one. Oh, actually, verse 45, sorry. So I was quoting or kind of going through 17 through 20 as we were talking. But verse 45, he says, if you do these things, if you allow the law of God to be your delight. Like the Old Testament, you read scriptures in the Old Testament, he said, if you allow the law of God to be your delight, that you meditate on it day and night, then I will make your way prosperous, have good success. You'll be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. You'll flourish. You'll have more than enough. You'll be abundantly blessed. Like, this is all in the Old Testament. Jesus was just telling them what he's been saying the whole time. And Jesus said, I didn't come to destroy the law. I didn't come to remove the law from you guys. I came to fulfill the law of God. I came to say God's blessing is for you. And don't allow, if you've ever fallen in any of these things, hold you back. And he says, at the end of talking about this, Jesus, when he's talking in Matthew chapter 5, he says, if you do these things and you allow the law of God to change your heart, he said, you will be sons of your Father in heaven. You'll be just like your Father in heaven. Because your Father in heaven is good to the evil and to the just. He makes it rain on the good people, and he makes it rain on the evil people. He's good to everybody. He doesn't know how to be anything but good. Jesus was like, you saw him in the Old Testament and you were afraid, but you didn't realize that one that you were afraid of is the one who's good all the time and only good. And he's raining goodness on everybody. You know what I'm saying? Jesus was revealing the Father. Before that, they didn't know who he was. Let me see the next slide. I don't remember. Sorry, guys. I really try to condense this a lot. We'll go. Okay, so the first four: vertical relationship. That's what this is focusing on. Vertical relationship. I'm just gonna read them, and you guys think about them. All right. So he is the only one worthy of our whole adoration. Isn't that pretty cool that Tasha just said that? And then it's up there. It's the same spirit in me that's in her. You know? He is the only one worthy of our all adoration. Like Tasha said, you won't waste. It won't be a waste. Not one moment of you pouring out your adoration to him would be a waste. He deserves all of it. And the next one here says, we are designed for worship just as the rest of creation. Like the grass of the field was created to worship God. The trees were created to worship God. The mountains declare his glory. The sun declares he's the only one, and light only comes from him. We were designed to worship him. We need to worship so much more than he needs our worship. He doesn't need us to worship him. He's God. He don't need our worship. He created that if we worship, it'll fill who we need to be. Yeah. We can't be who he's called us to be without worship, because that's how we were designed and created. There's a part of who we are that can only be filled through worship. And then he's the only one that can make worship the delight of your life. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I really thoroughly enjoy worshiping with you guys today. Like, what God can make that the delight of your life? Who can make, like, worshiping God does not sound like fun unless you know what worshiping is really like. The real God. Like, heaven is full of worshiping him, and like people are excited and like shouting, God, you're so good. And then it just like a chain reaction, just people all over heaven. Oh my God. Oh yes, I know it. I feel it, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Just throughout, I mean, you just hear, you know, throughout all of heaven. You're just like a wave. Like we were designed, and heaven is not going to be boring. Worship is not supposed to be. It's supposed to be so much fun that you get to just pour yourself out, and God comes in on the scene while you're worshiping him. He comes down like on the mountain, and he says, "I'm right here." Yes. Like we were created, it's so natural for us to worship, just like babies want to worship their parents. You know, they're like, "You're so strong, and you're this and that," and like parents are like, "Yeah." I mean, like, you don't know, like, you know what I'm saying? And then you get older, you're like, "Whatever, man. I'll take you out, Dad." But you know what I'm saying, right? We were created, we're designed to worship God, and it's a part of who we they can only be filled, they can only be you can only be satisfied with God in certain ways. Like, and one of those ways is worshiping Him. Like, you can try everything. You can try to be worshipped. You can try to like become the greatest musician or the greatest music star or all of this other stuff. And at the end of the day, the only thing that'll fill that void is starting with worship. So, Father, I thank you for this night. I thank you for your word. I thank you for creating us and designing us to worship you. Thank you for the law that you've given us to teach us how to love you, how to worship you, and how to love and cherish one another, Father. I pray, Lord, that we would grow in understanding of your law, of your word, and of all that you have for us, God. I pray you open the eyes of our hearts. You open our spiritual eyes to see your goodness, your mercy, Lord, just like we were singing tonight, that you would open our eyes to you, that we would see you, and as we see you, that you show us who we are. I just declare, God, that you are worthy, you are holy of all of our praise. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. I really like y'all.